beautiful people, welcome back to my channel. So today we're really gonna spill the tea, but we're not gonna be talking about a guy today. We're going to be talking about a girl. And this is gonna be on, music therapy, work related. Because obviously I've never dated a girl and I'm never going to. I don't like women. I don't like women at all. I find them very annoying and difficult to be friends with. I can't imagine myself dating a woman. It would just amplify everything. But yeah, and I'm about to go exercise after I do this video. I'm wearing like gray, like an old-fashioned workout. You know, in the 80s when they like, or whatever, 70s, I don't really remember, but they had this like weird gray color. That's what I decided to wear today. So anyway, we're gonna spill the tea. Here we go. Taking a big gulp. So let's dive in, shall we? Now before I start, full disclosure, this isn't meant to like badmouth anybody. It's gonna come across that way because I'm very passionate about this subject, but it's not to badmouth anybody. It's just to teach you that there aren't very nice people in the world, and the world is a very competitive place. So let's dive in, shall we? Okay, so in my music therapy journey, I was really interested in medical music therapy and working at a rehab facility with acquired brain injury patients, and I wanted to take my training to the next level. Now, of course, like this was at my first job, and I was a entry-level position, and I know that they say you can work your way up in the company, but I don't want to say that you can't. It's just really difficult. And the reason there's a psychology component to this. It's just because people remember you as they met you. That was definitely a fact when I was in high school, because like I wasn't really that great of a flute player when my band teacher met me. So even though I improved over the year, like over the course of a year, over the course of 2, 3, 4 years, my band teacher always remembered me as not a great flute player. Like when I changed, he didn't necessarily see the growth. He just saw me as he met me. And the same thing happened at my first job. Like no matter what training I did, no matter how I like presented myself, no matter how I dressed, no matter how I talked, no matter what credentials I acquired, because yes, I did go above and beyond, and I did take classes that weren't necessary of me. I did like learn all the ropes to be an asset to the company, and no matter what I did, I was still looked at as the young one, as entry level, and it was very frustrating. In high school, like it was frustrating for me in high school, but like it's only 4 years, and you can just cope with it and stick up for yourself and then move on, and that's what I did. But in a job, like it's difficult. It's more difficult. And there's a lot of different facets, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. So I had this supervisor, and she was very nice and down to earth at first, but like something happened. I don't know like what was wrong with her, but there was something like she was mentally disturbed on a lot of different levels. And again, I don't mean that in a mean way. I'm just stating the facts. Like she had food issues, she had weight issues, I'm sure she had relationship issues, because everybody does. She had financial issues. So like I mentioned, like mentally disturbed. Anybody who has all 4 of those things going against them is mentally disturbed. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what happens when you're an adult and you can't take it, and that's what exactly happened to her. She couldn't take it. She couldn't handle it. She couldn't handle the responsibility of being an adult. And that's okay. Like it happens, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing to be ashamed of. But here's the part that really bothered me about her in particular. So she was having all of these personal issues / struggles, and one of the main reasons why I don't like women is because they're not very good at getting in control of their emotions. It takes certain women who are really like strong and in control and able to separate like work from play. And I know a lot of my friends are like that, so I have a decent amount of women who are like that, but this particular girl was not. And she definitely brought all of her personal issues to work with her, which is so immature. And like when you're 18 or 16, even like when I got my first job, or like you start working when you're like 15, 16. So like I would bring my well, actually, no, I never brought because I didn't really have any personal stuff, but people would bring their personal stuff to work, and that's fine because you're 15 and you're starting to go through the motions of driving and you're starting to date and you're not really mature enough to separate work from play, and that's fine. But this girl was like late 20s, that's like unacceptable. If you can't figure out separating, if you can't like leave your problems at the door, you shouldn't be working at all at that point. Like that was my major issue with her. It wasn't that she was mentally disturbed in her head with all of her problems. It was the fact that she brought her problems to work with her every single day. And then she critiqued, because she was a manager, so like she critiqued when other people brought their issues to work. She would get mad and she would like scold them, and it was just like, practice what you preach, girl. Like, anyway, so I, in the medical field, and as a music therapist too, you don't have to be a music therapist in medicine. You could be a music therapist in didactic or in geriatrics or in psychiatric. Music therapy is a very, very competitive profession, especially on the East Coast, because there's a lot of schools that have really awesome music programs, really awesome music therapy programs. So there's a decent amount of individuals graduating with a music therapy degree with experience, and there's not that many jobs. So music therapy in all aspects is very, very competitive. And then when you're a music therapist in medicine, it's even more competitive, because then not only are you competing with the music therapy medicine driven individuals like myself, you're competing with the people who changed careers, and maybe they were a nurse and then they became a music therapist, or maybe they were a music therapist who became a nurse. You know what I'm saying? So it just takes it to a whole nother level. And that's where I was. So I had goals that I wanted to reach in my career, and I wanted to reach them in a short period of time because I didn't want to be working at that facility for that long, mainly because I was just looked at as entry level, and I didn't want to be entry level music therapy for longer than a year. You know what I'm saying? Like, I need the money. I did all this training. I invested in myself. And I want to live that highfalutin, upper class, not even upper middle class, upper class society. And I can't do that working here at an entry-level position. So I wanted to reach a couple of milestones, and plus I needed my recertification. So one of the things I wanted to do was have an intern, develop an internship program. I wanted to do some training, some certification, take a couple of courses and get them paid for, because it was for my recertification. Anyway, this manager, she literally bashed every single one of my ideas, every single thing I wanted to do to improve myself. She bashed. Like, I asked her if I could get trained to distribute medication. She said no. I asked her if I could do a certification program that the company was offering. She said no. I asked her if I could have an intern. She said no. She said no to me getting my master's, and that was like the straw that broke the camel's back. I was just like, you have no idea what you're even talking about. Like, why do you keep saying no to me? And it's like, and I understand, to some degree, I understood, like, I don't want you working as a CNA. Like, one of the things she said was, I don't want you working as a CNA because I don't want you to get scolded as a CNA and have that on your record as a music therapist, because it doesn't really, because like if you get in trouble in the company, that stays on your company record, I don't really know why I would get in trouble as a CNA, like, what, I'm gonna forget to feed somebody? Like, you know what I mean? It's very difficult to get in trouble as a CNA, but she like made that comment, and that I understood like, oh, you know, if I made a if I made a mistake as a CNA, okay, I get why you don't want me to work. Now looking back on it, it's kind of dumb, but in the moment I was like, okay, that may kind of make sense, I guess. So like I listened, but now looking back on it, everything she told me that she didn't want me to do like didn't make sense, and it was almost as if she was jealous. And then it got to the point where like me and my significant other went on vacation together. She got mad about that. And then I went to Armenia for a mission trip, and she was livid. Like, I'm going to Armenia to help children. I'm serving in an orphanage. I'm going with the church. Like, I'm going to better myself as an individual and give back to society. And I'm doing music. I'm working with children. I'm working with children with disabilities. Like, how could you be against that? Like, again, another straw. That wasn't a straw. What would we call that? A needle in the haystack? Because that will hurt even worse than the no masters thing. So the point that I'm trying to make is that this individual, I don't know, there was something mentally wrong with her, and she took it out on me, and she felt like she could take it out on me. I don't know. Is it because I'm small? Maybe. Like, is it because I went behind her back to do what I needed to do? Maybe. And yes, and I did go behind her back on multiple occasions. I went behind her back to get an intern. I went behind her back to get her letter of recommendation for my master's program. I went behind her back to get med certified. Like, I did because I am trying to be an asset to the company. I am trying to make ends meet. I am trying to work at the #1 hospital on the East Coast. What am I supposed to tell somebody if I go for an interview at like Columbian Presbyterian and they're like, oh, you're a music therapist, but like, did you have an intern? Did you get med certified? Did you get your master's? What am I supposed to say? No, my supervisor wouldn't let me. Do you think that's really gonna fly? No, it's not gonna fly. It's not. It's gonna harm me. It's not gonna harm her. So I went behind her back and I did what I needed to do. And the reason why I'm telling you guys this story is because it is a competitive world out there. Music therapy is very competitive. Medicine is very competitive. And you need to set yourself apart from everybody else. You need to set guidelines. You need to set boundaries. You need to set times for when you want to accomplish certain things in your education journey, in your work journey, in your life journey. I mean, I have a timeline as to when I want to have kids and when I want to get married. So like, it goes beyond the career. But in this case, we're talking about the career, you know, and it's just so sad that there are people like this out there who are supposed to be our managers. They're supposed to be encouraging us to be better people, and they're not. And this is just one person that had issues, but like, I've come across multiple people that have issues. Now, it is important to mention that like, some people are tougher than others. Like, I had a practicum supervisor who was really, really tough and really, really mean. But then after I was done with that practicum, like, I learned so much. And now, you know, now we connect, and now she's one of my references. So it's important to kind of determine when you're getting taken advantage of, which this individual at my job that didn't want me to do anything was literally manipulating my career, whereas my practicum supervisor was just being rough on me because she wanted me to be better. So you have to like determine that. And I understand, like, in my personal journey, in my medical journey, I'm gonna have both types of people, and you need to know how to present yourself correctly in that type of situation. So like, my when I dealt with my practicum supervisor, again, I just kind of like shrugged a lot of it off because I wasn't going to be working with her for that long. And then after we were done, I got the answer of that, you know, oh, she's tougher. And she said this, oh, I'm sorry, I was maybe a little more tough on you. I didn't realize where you were in your training. You know, I think, you know, you bypassed all hoops, you jumped them, you succeeded. So, and I'm very impressed, and I apologize that, you know, I thought you were further along in your career than you actually were. And that's fair. Like, that happens to practicum and internship supervisors all the time. And it's going to happen to me as I continue my clinical training. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But this supervisor that I had at my first job, who, like, tried to manipulate my career, that is just wrong on so many different levels, and you're gonna experience those types of people. Yeah, the worst part, I think the worst part about having a horrible supervisor is that you can't talk to anybody about it. Like, you can talk to your friends that don't work at that place. I talked to my mom a couple of times, but they're not really gonna understand because they're not in it. You really, honestly, I really wanted to talk to the people I worked with, and I couldn't do that. Once they left, then I was able to be like, I never liked her. She was so mean, you know. So that was kind of hard, where I had to kind of keep my feelings to myself, but that's what you have to do. And like, when your supervisor is mean and messed up and like manipulates you and takes advantage of you, because these people are out there, you really have to just sit and take it and like try to manipulate your way around it. So like, when I wanted to get my master's, first of all, a manager has no right telling you not to go back to school. Like, going back to school and getting your master's is going to make you an asset to the company. It's actually more of a financial benefit if you have more employees going back to school and getting educated. I understand that, like, when that employee is in the process of school, I understand that they're not going to be giving their fullest to work. So a lot of times managers worry about that. But you do have to remember that most master's programs are like a year, 2 years, and sometimes the company offers master's programs, so it's a little bit easier to balance work and school. And it's only 2 years. So you may be getting like 50% effort from this employee for 2 years, right? But then if you catch them and you hold on to them, which a lot of times if they pay for your if the company pays for your master's, you have to stay with them for a certain period of time. So if you have to stay with the company for like 3 years because they paid for your master's, then the company actually benefits from the employee having their master's, even though they only gave like 50% of effort for 2 years. In the long run, over the course of 5 years, they're actually going to be giving, you know, 120%, like, you know. So that's something and I brought that concept up, but this girl, she just, again, she wasn't really that smart. I'll get to that actually in a second. So I brought that up, but like, it wasn't understood. It wasn't comprehended. It totally went over her head. So, and it's a very valid point. So in order to get that accomplishment, because like, if I'm paying for my master's out of pocket, there's no reason for you to say no. Plus, she didn't own the company. So like, it's not like she could, like, you know, I could go through human resources and get my master's funded if I really wanted to. Like, she had no control over that. But I did need a letter of recommendation. So I ended up asking my boss, and he was all about it, and he gave me his story as to when and where he got his master's and what he got his master's in. And my boss, like, at the time, he was a little nuts, because like, that's what happens with bosses at nonprofit. They get a lot of like stuff that they have to deal with on a daily basis. So on a daily basis, he was like a train wreck, just because of his job, just because of he was like the middleman between the working class and the higher ups. It wasn't him personally. But anyway, he sat me down and he talked to me, and we had a great conversation. And again, I don't really think he was down for me getting my master's either, but he was willing to write the letter of recommendation, and he saw that it would have brought the company, you know, profit in the long run. There you go. It was also mentioned when I had that meeting with my boss, he did ask about my supervisor, and he did ask if she was giving me problems. Because he said something like, why did you ask me? Why did you set up this meeting? Why didn't you just ask her? And that's something that to keep in mind, that even though she was in the wrong, and even though she's a horrible person, you don't want to say that in a work environment. Like, you don't want to tell your boss, like, she keeps telling me no for all these things, and like, she's so mean, she's manipulating my career. Like, you don't want to tell that to your boss, you know? So what I ended up saying was, I just said, oh, well, she has a lot of letters she has to write, so I figured it was easier if I asked you, plus you already have your master's in the field I'm going in, you know? And that's true too. Like, sometimes other people in your job, even though they might not know you that well, if they have their master's in what you're going for, they might be a better person to reach out to and connect with than your direct supervisor. But that's something you never want to badmouth the supervisor or anybody at work to your boss. You never want to badmouth anybody when you're in your next job interview. I'm just telling you, like, the straight up version, and I'll get to my personal feelings in a second. And again, I'm not trying to like badmouth her. I'm just telling you like what you have to deal with. That's why I'm being so open about it. So last but finally not least, I did mention that this person wasn't very smart, obviously, because the whole concept of an employee getting their master's and being a good thing for the department and for the company totally went over her head. Anyway, I found out that this person wanted to get an advanced degree as well, and was actually struggling getting an advanced degree. So I noticed, in hindsight, I realized that this person, again, was taking her personal struggles out on me. And the main takeaway that I'm trying to make is that it's a competitive world out there, and not everybody is going to like you, and you're going to have supervisors that are dumb, like this girl, who literally take all the problems, bring them to work. They're not very good at their job, but like this girl, she was so underqualified, it wasn't even funny. She was very immature, and a lot of people saw it, but like, I didn't know that they saw it until after I left, and that's like something to be said, but there's going to be those supervisors that are supervisors and they are managers, but they're not good at it and they shouldn't be managers. You know what I'm saying? So, and I'm not saying that all these people are bad, because I have had supervisors that weren't educated that were actually very good. But you just have to like kind of watch out, and you have to kind of watch out to see if you're being manipulated, if your career is on the line here, if somebody higher up doesn't like you and is holding you back, because it's a competitive world. And I have huge goals. I want to work at the #1 hospital on the East Coast. That's a huge goal. I want to go to Ivy League school. That's a huge goal. And you can't get there if you have a supervisor that's talking you down. You can't get there if you have a supervisor that's underqualified and takes out their problems on you. Like, you just, and then you can't do certain things. You can't improve. You can't become what you're meant to be. So if you're in that, I mean, the easiest thing to do if you're in that type of situation is to leave the job. But like, that's not always feasible, and for me it wasn't feasible. I couldn't just like get up and leave after I felt abused, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes you just have to tough it out. You have to let what the supervisor says go in one ear out the other. You have to find a way to cope with it on your own, because you can't talk to anybody at work about it. So like, I joke, I say that she's not smart, because she's not. And I say that like, oh, well, you know, she's struggling in her own way, and she's not healthy. She doesn't have healthy coping mechanisms. She needs, well, everybody says that everybody needs to go to therapy, so I always like leave that one out of it. But she needs to go to church. We'll put it that way. She needs to stop drinking and needs to go to church. So like, that's kind of what I say to myself. And I know that sometimes like that puts people down. Obviously saying that somebody's dumb, that's not very nice, but That's the truth. I just laughed, and that's kind of how you have to cope with it. And then you have to learn, when I become a manager, when I become a supervisor, I don't want to be like her. And that's for sure. Actually, now, currently, I'm a manager at my office, and I'm financially stable, and I don't have guy problems, and I'm not struggling to get into school, and I, don't have, I forget what the other thing that was wrong with her. Oh, weight problems. So I did get the position that she has. I did achieve it at a younger age, and I don't have all of that, weight that's on my shoulders that I'm dealing with. I actually like my life, and that's something that I didn't like about her personally. She always bragged on social media about how perfect her life was, but her life really wasn't perfect. Ask me. I was the one she took all her anger out on. So yeah, her life wasn't perfect, and my life's not perfect either, but I don't take my anger out on other people. I don't try to manipulate people. I don't try to manipulate their careers. I want all my employees to succeed, and that's something to be said about my character. So, that's, I guess, long story short. It was pretty darn long, but it's important. And talking about this makes me very passionate, and it makes me very angry, that there are people like this out there. There's people like this getting manager positions. This person is going to end up going for her PhD, and she's probably going to get in at some point, and I know it sounds so mean, but I don't want her to. I don't want her to succeed because she didn't want me to succeed. But you can't think that way. You feel that way. That's an emotional thought that I just shared with you, but you can't feel that way. You need to focus on yourself. You need to focus on being a better person. You need to be competitive. You need to step on people to get where you need to be, like I did. You need to learn from this mistake and make yourself not be in that type of position, which again, I did. So overall, I did really overcome, the issue, and now I can firmly say that I'm a manager and I am better than her at a younger age, and that's pretty darn cool. And I did get what I wanted. I got into a master's program. I got med certified. I'm on track to becoming high class society, and I'm really proud of myself for handling it maturely in that situation. And that's something that you have to look at, and that's something that you have to think about. Of course, I badmouthed her, but I had to tell you the juice. I had to share the tea. I had to tell you all the bad, because you're going to deal with people like that, and you need to know how it makes you feel, what to be prepared for, how to handle the situation, and what it was like in my case. Overall, I don't like this person, but I'm never going to have to see her again, and that's just a beautiful thing. So, overall, it worked out for me, and I really do hope it works out for you, and I hope you don't have to deal with any annoying people, but they're going to be there, and you just need to know how to handle it at work. Just not talk about it, just let it go in one ear, out the other. Don't worry about it. And just move on and keep your eye on the prize. Keep your mind focused and meet those goals. Meet those career goals. Meet those educational goals. No matter what, people are going to stop you all the time. In this case, it was my manager, which is so unacceptable, but people in your regular life are going to stop you too. Your parents might stop you, your spouse might stop you, your friends might stop you. So it's not just work. People don't like when you want to be something, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult to deal with at work because you get very fired up, but you have to be respectful and you have to be the bigger person. And that's what I have to say. If you want any more tips and tricks, because literally this was only one supervisor I had that was messed up, that I told you about, but I've had multiple supervisors that were jealous of me and took their anger out on me in the past. So if you would like to hear those stories and how to cope with it, please let me know. I'd be more than happy to share, because I think it's important that I show you all the good, the bad, the ugly, and how to deal with it through anecdotal stories than just telling you how to deal with it, because sometimes you can't necessarily relate, and sometimes you don't understand where the other person's coming from. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. Talk to you guys later. Bye.